Dozens of people gathered in Prestonsburg to remember the life of Amber Spradlin. Spradlin died back in June, and her family still has no answers. There are prayers, songs, and spoken word to honor Spradlin in hopes of keeping her name alive.
The wheels of justice turn slowly, and it takes time to get through all of the evidence, and they have collected a tremendous amount of evidence.
People in Floyd County gathered in Prestonsburg today demanding change after Amber Spradlin was killed in the Martin community last week. Her loved ones say they are patiently waiting for the right person to be held accountable.
There's a monster out there.
Amen.
And people who know things about this and they don't want to tell, well, they're a monster too.
We're continuing to learn more about a death investigation out of Floyd County. It's been 11 days since Amber Spradlin's body was found in a home in Martin, Kentucky.
Now, we don't know what led to her death, but we do know that investigators have told family members that it was a violent scene.
As the murder investigation for Floyd County woman Amber Spradlin nears the 1-month mark, officials are asking the community for their cooperation. Kentucky State Police released a statement yesterday saying they have received a lot of help and tips from the community regarding the case, but troopers urge those reaching out to be responsible by reporting only factual information. Spradlin's family has asked that the internet sleuthing, theories, and community conspiracies born from the case be put on the back burner.
They thought they were going to get away with this, and they're not going to.
Listener discretion is advised.
What you're about to hear, well, I've rewritten it time and time again, looking for something that would honor her, remember her, and show you how important of a human being she was to so many people. Well, there's no doubt in my mind that you've already heard how violently she died. You've heard that pathetic rumor mill that's only purpose so far has been to delay an investigation whose inevitable conclusion will be the price paid by precious seconds ticking away on the clock that could bring the family peace, or at least some form of it. You've heard the small talk and the whispers. Now, you'll hear from her family. You know how she died. But do you know how she lived? Do you know the people and things that she loved? Her hopes, dreams, her aspirations, all of the things that can make this life magical. The things that make this world worth living in. This world. It's not the same one I grew up in. Well, the planet itself hasn't changed much, but the people that call it home sure as hell have. So many questions about how we got to this point and why. And of course, who. But questions can be a funny thing, I guess. I suppose we all have them. And very few of them are ever answered with the truth. This episode is about those questions. Questions like, who would want to end the life of a bright 38-year-old woman that loved and still is loved so deeply by almost everyone that knew her? Well, almost. Apparently there was someone out there that didn't. It was a hot, balmy June night in the mountains of a small community in eastern Kentucky. A little place, a dot on the map. It's called Arkansas Creek, an outlying community of the city of Martin, which is close to Prestonsburg. She had made a home nearby, taking care of her grandparents later in life, who had, in her earlier years, taken care of her. You see, she lost both of her own parents at a very early age. Then, some years later, she had to fight with loss once again, when her sister had died as the result of a car wreck. Seemed like pain, heartache, and grief were in abundance for her then. But there was also light, love, and hope. Those things came from her family. Oh, she knew that come hell or high water, she had her family. Let me introduce a couple of them to you. Her aunt, Melissa Samons, who spent years in nursing. Missy would become like a loving and caring mother, like the one she lost when she was only 4 years old. And then there was her cousin, yes, a cousin, family, Debbie Hall. That was more like her sister and best friend. Debbie's a doctor. Later down that rocky and windy road, there was always plenty to do helping her grandparents that had loved her so much and that she had loved in return. Trips to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, and of course, work. Make no mistake about it, she worked hard, and she had a passion for being the smile that welcomed people to the small but popular little restaurant that she was a hostess at. The Brick House in Prestonsburg is well known around these parts for serving up popular menu items and some really cold, delicious drinks, but nothing could hit the spot like that smile she gave when you walked through those doors. Oh, that smile. That alone was worth being on the wait list just to get in. After her grandparents passed, there was more of that grief, of course, and she worked through it. It's like Keith Whitley once said, "No stranger to the rain." That was her. But she was a fighter, a warrior, that wanted nothing more than to love and to be loved, and the word quit wasn't anywhere in her vocabulary. So she picked up and set forth on getting a place of her own and beginning her new life. A life with hopes, dreams, and potential that would come to a tragically shocking and violent end on June 18th, 2023. And no one came to help? You heard me right. No one came to help. Why? Like I said, questions. These are the Mountain Mysteries, and this is episode 76. What we find. Amber's story. The Mountain Mystery of Amber Nicole Spradlin.
I will be the last to fall. I won't shed a tear for them to see. And I won't have your name to call. I will be the last to fall.
Over 24% of the 1.9 billion square acres in America alone, the mountains that so many people call home, also play host to some of the most staggering mysteries in the world. The missing.
And she said, I knew I wasn't there anymore.
The murdered.
All my emotions just went blank, just blank.
And I still live with that today. I think about that so much the days he was in that water.
Strange creatures.
Whatever it was that was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside.
I mean, it was nope, we need to get out of town.
Unexplained lights and sightings.
It does not look like an airplane. Okay. They come together and then they separate and they just keep doing this all the time.
These stories may be strange. They may be sad. They may be odd. But they are mysterious. These are the Mountain Mysteries. And now your host, Chris Sloan.
I want you to do me a favor, if you will, and imagine, if you can, living in a place where nothing much really ever happens. Having the kind of small town feel that out-of-towners are envious of. They wish they had a little more of that. Floyd County, Kentucky is located in the eastern part of the state, and it's known for a lot of things. Well, they've got the Rainbow Bridge that, while now is inoperational, it still stands like a monument to times that have long since passed. Simpler times. Some would say better times. At one time, it was a leave your front door open and screen doors unlocked at night kind of place. The county has never been without its troubles, though. In 1949, a beautiful Prestonsburg High School cheerleader named Muriel Baldridge was found murdered under that Rainbow Bridge that we just spoke about. Then, in 1956, Floyd County was where the worst school bus disaster in this nation's history occurred, claiming the lives of 26 kids and a bus driver. 27 people died in that accident on school bus number 27. In 2019, a woman named Krista Garrett went missing from a gas station just off of US 23. We've still not found her yet. In June of 2021, well, that year would see another woman, identified as Candy Green Gonzalez, go missing, only to have her remains found 2 years later in a place that had been previously searched time and again. Both Garrett and Gonzalez had ties to a former Floyd County sheriff's son. Coincidence? Some think not. People have changed. Respect for property and people have been replaced by greed and an attitude of just not giving a damn. It seems as if this county has always had something lurking over it, like a storm cloud about ready to burst. My dad used to say that Eastern Kentucky was 15 years behind the rest of the world, and that it's really not that bad of a proposition when you think about it. Well, I guess not, but this is sad to say. I think we've caught up with the rest of the world. I recently sat down with two of the people that were closest to Amber Nicole Spradlin, and they opened their home to me like I was one of their own. It is a beautiful place, fitting for a beautiful personality like Amber was and, well, like she'll always be. Now, we told you about Melissa Samons earlier. That's Amber's aunt. More like a mom figure you'll discover soon enough. Debbie Hall. Debbie Hall is a doctor and bears one of the best reputations for patient care that any physician anywhere on this planet could ask for. She and Melissa are both caregivers. So that makes it easy to see what you are about to learn concerning Amber, that she too cared. She cared about people and animals, about everything and everyone. Yet, sometime on June 18th, someone decided to take that away, to the tragedy of not only all that knew Amber, but those that could have. It's enough to make anyone who spoke to Melissa and Debbie and learned who Amber Nicole Spradlin is, or was, pissed off beyond words. Now, let's learn who Amber really was, and who she will always be. I sat down inside of their beautiful home, and across the table from me, here stares two faces, filled with hope, love, but covered with grief. We started with Debbie Hall.
I grew up in Goble Roberts Edition, and Amber's parents grew up there. So I remember whenever her mom first became pregnant, and when Amber was born, and I would see them. They walked a lot in the bottom with Amber in the stroller, and our grandparents lived just down the street, so we were all within walking distance and would just see them all the time. We've always been a real tight family with lots of dinners together, and there was never a holiday that went by that we didn't celebrate. So that's Amber. The first time I was still in high school whenever she was born, and just memories of her being around our grandparents. She was always. So
you knew her from the day she was born,
yeah.
and she knew you her entire life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Missy?
The same. I mean, I didn't live here at the time when Amber was born. I was living in Richmond, but I came home to help my sister for the first week, and Amber was just so little and tiny.
How old would you say she was then, if you were guessing?
Newborn.
So she was an infant.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she's just a little tiny thing, and I didn't do anything to help my sister. She did it all. And
now, was that one of those things that she wanted to do it all, or was that one of those? Okay, so
yes,
so it's like, this is my baby, stay away. You don't touch my baby. That kind of
yeah.
First time mom.
No.
Oh, really?
Second child.
Oh.
Yeah, she had another daughter that was, I think she was 10 years old whenever Amber was born. But one thing I wanted to say is I've been having to go through all of Amber's personal things, and I came across her birth certificate the other day, and it just made me think about that first week when I stayed with them. And she was just so tiny, such a sweet little baby. Bald.
And she would carry that all of her life, wouldn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes those memories that much more valuable when we hold on. I mean, it's things like that you cannot put a price tag on.
No.
Tell me about a time when she just made you flat out fall over laughing.
There was plenty of times. In fact, I just occasionally they'll pop into my head. But one time, not too long ago, and like she was 37 years old, I guess. I was over at her house, and we walked out on the back porch. I lived next door, and I was getting ready to walk home, and I heard something. I heard an owl hooting, and Amber turned around and listened, and then she said, "Did you hear that coyote?" I said, "That wasn't a coyote. That was an owl." And but we got the biggest fun out of that. And
in the interest of professionally, I got to say this, whether this part makes it into the podcast or not. I was trying not to crack up on that one, but I was like, "Love her little heart." How do you just not distinguish a coyote from
from an owl? Yeah. And no, it was a good joke.
It makes me wish that she and I had been buddies.
Mm-hmm. She was fun. Mm-hmm. But the thing about her was that she didn't mean to say these funny things. They just happened. And
those were the best times.
Yes. And
you're sitting there going, really?
Yeah. yes. And she always had just would make us laugh with the dumb things that she would say and everything. And they were just spontaneous. It wasn't anything that she planned. It just would come out of her mouth. And that was one of them.
So she was like this a lot, all the time?
Yes. Yeah. And she was, her friends too, they've been telling me how funny she was whenever they were together, and things that, she was a jokester, and she pulled pranks on them, and I did not know that about her. I don't know if she, why she didn't ever tell me she was a prankster. She was always pretty serious with, well, not serious, but she never pulled pranks on me that I can remember or anything. But
she sure did other people.
Yes, she did.
Can you think of a time of one that really stands out?
I can't think of anything.
Oh, I can tell you.
I'd love to hear
a really good one.
Yeah.
Brandon was always just picking at her and aggravating her.
Now, Brandon's your husband, right?
Soon to be husband.
Oh, soon to be. Okay.
He was always just picking at her and aggravating her, and she loved it. And if he didn't, she was like, "Well, are you mad at me? Is something wrong?" But
that's how she knew things were okay. Yeah.
But he was always doing that. And one evening, we'd been golfing, and we came home, and we were all going out to eat at Stonecrest, and there had been a state police car in the driveway and at Amber's house, and it was a gentleman that she had come by when he got off work to give a price on pressure washing the house. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if we saw the car there or what, but we knew about that. And Amber, Brandon had been cussing a little bit about an ex-boyfriend of mine and throwing some threats around. And Amber told that was the police there asking questions about him. It made him think that there was a warrant for him.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And she was so great at it. She did not crack a smile the whole time. It was a Friday. Brandon was scared to death he was going to go to jail and be stuck in jail all weekend long. So
that one went deeper than I thought. I thought I knew where it was going. And when you said that Brandon was about ready to just turn it loose on this fellow, and she was like, well, he's here investigating. I can see me going, huh? What? Really? Are you serious?
Well, we went to dinner, but Brandon was so torn up and sick he couldn't eat. He went to the bathroom and came out and he said, I had to go throw up. I'm so nervous. And she let this go on for a couple of hours before she ever told him.
Okay. I have to ask this. How did she do the reveal? How did she tell him?
I don't even remember how she did do it.
It was probably just some kind of a nonchalant, hey, by the way, yeah.
I think she finally took pity on him because he was so torn up.
Well, she had a heart of gold, apparently.
Yes.
So she probably thought, poor guy's not eating.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him go hungry. I don't want to see him be sick. So I guess I need to tell him that I was just joking. So what was Brandon's response to that?
Yeah, he said, I'll kill you.
He said, I'm going to get you for this.
Yeah.
So tell me, when she was young, what age did she start school? Roundabout.
Well, she started Head Start.
Probably around 6, 5.
No, it's earlier than that because it's before kindergarten, I think, isn't it? Head Start.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And she got kicked out of Head Start for starting a food riot, and they called my mom, and this was I think I don't know why they called my mom. I don't know where Sharon was alive, so her mom was alive. But anyway, my mom had to go to Head Start and pick her up, and because she started a food riot, and all the kids had food all over them because they had been throwing food. So
and
I think they suspended her for a few days.
From Head Start.
Yeah, from
Amber
Head Start.
instigated this.
Yes, she did.
So at the age of 4 or 5, she was a little troublemaker.
No, I guess Sharon wasn't alive then. Yeah, because if she was in Head Start, then yeah. So my sister wasn't alive then. So.
How old was she when she lost her mom?
She was 4, and it was sad too. And then she lost her sister in a car wreck when she was, oh gosh, how old was she?
Angela was 23.
Yeah.
So.
And so Amber would have been about 13 then, 12 or 13, because I think Angela was 10 years older than her.
How about her dad?
Her dad died of a heart condition, and he's been dead for about 10 years. Yeah.
That had to have been very difficult for her to process. I mean, I get it, 4 years old, but still.
Yeah, I mean.
How do you wrap your mind around
Yes.
the idea of
Yeah.
they're not coming back?
Right.
I remember at the funeral home, Tom was standing up at the casket where Sharon was, and Amber went running up and she grabbed him on his pant leg and she said, lift me up so I can see my mommy.
And she was only 4 then. We talked about school. Take me through grade school and high school.
Well, she had a lot of problems in school. She was very outspoken and loud. Teachers sent home a lot of notes and stuff because she did have behavior problems. I think most of the kids felt like she was too demanding, and so she didn't have a lot of friends either, and people picked on her. The kids picked on her. So she went to several different schools.
Safe to say bullied?
Yes, she was bullied. She was.
How did she handle that?
well, not real well, I guess. I mean, she.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would say that's safe to assume, but I mean, she never went off and like hurt somebody.
No.
Like
she clammed up. She kept everything inside.
Yes.
When she was hurt, she kept everything inside.
Yes.
You would never even know that she was hurt, but I knew she was, but she never showed it. But yeah, she never said a word to Margie or Merle, her grandparents, or any of us about any hardships or problems at school that she was having.
You know, a lot of people when they get into situations like that, or when they find themselves, probably a better way to put it, when they find themselves in situations like that, they develop a safe spot. And for some people, that may be something like painting, or it may be something like, I don't know, riding bikes or shooting ball or something to get their mind occupied off that. Did they ever have such a thing?
She had a lot of interests. I mean, she loved music. She loved concerts. She went to lots of concerts. She loved wrestling. And it was really strange because she loved wrestling ever since she was just a little kid because her dad watched it. And I teased her all the time, and I said, Amber, Lord have mercy, why do you watch wrestling? I mean, wrestling, you know that's fake. And she said, I like it. And
didn't matter if it was fake or not to her, did it?
It didn't.
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter. And but then I went to wrestling with her, and I saw what the wrestlers looked like, and they were these nice, well-built men. And
beefcakes.
Yes. And so then I told her, I said, I see why. And she smiled about that. But she had a lot of interest. She was a foodie. She loved to eat at different restaurants and was very critical too. She loved to cook and was starting to experiment with a lot of different recipes and stuff.
She was a good cook. She learned a lot.
Yeah.
Margie taught her a lot,
Yes.
and then she picked a lot up on her own.
Yes.
Now, who is Margie?
Her grandmother.
Oh, grandmother.
My mom.
Okay, your mom.
Yeah.
Now, Amber lived with them for a while, didn't she?
Yes, all her life from age 4 to age 37.
So about the time that
When
her,
they both-
her mom passed, your sister had passed, her mom had passed, and
Until her grandfather passed away, because her grandmother passed away in 2019, and then her grandfather in 2022. And wait, was it 22? 21, that's right. And so she had lived with them her whole life, and never had been on her own before.
So tell me, was she excited to get on her own? I mean, I know that the heartbreak of losing people you love, it's real. And we all know that. We've all experienced it. It's something that doesn't go away. You learn to adjust eventually and try to move on. But she had a lot of things to look forward to in her life.
She did. And
was she excited about the move?
I think she was, but she was kind of scared too, to be on her own and by herself, because she had never lived by herself before. And so that was kind of scary for her, but I think she...
Kind of a first-time nervousness kind of thing.
Yes, yeah,
Sure.
just like any person whenever they first move out of the house and everything. But she seemed to settle in pretty good and start being, doing her adult thing and being grown up.
Planning things for us to do at her house.
Yes.
We had Thanksgiving dinner there last year. And the house that she bought was my mom and dad's house where I grew up my whole life. So
she had purchased a house.
Yes.
She wasn't renting. She had bought one.
Yes.
When she went big.
Yes.
Yes.
Kudos to her. That was very respectable. That's very admirable. So what did she think about living on her own and being on her own?
I think she enjoyed it a lot, but she really didn't have much time on her own because she had a friend who needed a place to stay. And so as soon as she got moved in there, she let that friend and her friend's children come and stay with her as long as they needed to. And then after they moved out, she had another friend who needed a place to stay, so she let him stay there for a couple of months until he was able to get where he needed to go. And she really had only been by herself,
I guess, not very long. Yeah.
So she was busy helping a lot of other people.
She was. Yes. Yeah. And she was always a caregiver and to people, and doing things for her friends and
family.
Yeah, and her family.
And she loved animals.
Yes, she did. Yeah.
Tell me about her animals.
Well, let's see. Where do I start? They had a cat named Daisy when her and my parents first moved here to Spurlock. They moved here in 2004. My parents had their house built as their retirement home, and soon after they moved here, she wanted a cat, so they got Daisy, and it ended up that she loved Daisy a whole lot, but she was jealous of her too, because my parents treated the cat like another child. And and it was really funny because it was like a competition about who got the most attention, Daisy or Amber. But after Daisy passed away, then Amber has another cat. She got another cat and named her Sadie. And then when Debbie's mom passed away, her mom had 2 cats, and so Amber took one of them, and Debbie took the other one, and so she was a cat mother, I guess, and she worried about those cats. She would not. She just worried about them because she.
So she was the kind of mom that had I'm a cat mom and I'm working hard so my cats don't have to.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, she was always complaining about, those cats won't eat this cat food. And so I bought them this other kind, and they ate it 3 days and then they didn't want it.
Got tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she did pamper her cats, and she made sure that they went to the vet and had all their shots. And if they got sick, she took them to the vet, and it was just part of who she was. She took care of them just like she did a person, I think.
When we come back on the Mountain Mysteries,
11 times
she was stabbed.
Yes.
A life cut short far too quickly, and the reeling family left behind.
Support the Mountain Mysteries on Patreon and get early access to all episodes. With 3 tiers, it's easy to choose what you want. $5 and $10 tiers get you early access, plus free gear, behind-the-scenes bonus content, and more. Plus access to interviews that would have wound up on the cutting room floor. Find out links on Facebook.com/The Mountain Mysteries. Support the Mountain Mysteries and stay mysterious.
On the next episode of the Mountain Mysteries, she went missing in 2019, and 4 years later, not a word. What happened to Krista Nicole Garrett?
The very last thing she ever said to me was, "I'm going to rehab. I'm going to get my life back."
That's on the next episode of The Mountain Mysteries. So we were talking about school days, and that she graduated from David.
Yes, the David School in 2003. And she was very proud too. I remember going to her graduation. You did too, didn't you?
Not the David School.
No,
I didn't.
No. Okay. Well, maybe it was just me and Mom and Merle then, and but she was so pleased, and we've got a lot of pictures of that too. That's one thing. Amber was our family historian and holder of heirlooms, And so we have she had a ton of pictures, and which I've been carrying them all over to my house. And I figured later on, when we get settled down a little bit, then maybe all the family can get together and we can go through the pictures and look at them and everything.
Seems to me like she placed a 5-star priority on family.
Oh, yes.
Everything. Family's everything.
Yes. And I mean, she loved her family. I mean, she really, really loved her family. And she liked being at family functions. She had a lot of fun at Debbie's house, and she would come over and help Debbie, like if we're having a cookout or whatever, she'd come over early, or if it was a holiday and we were eating, she'd come over early and help Debbie and do all the cooking and stuff. She loved doing all that.
Anything that she could do to spend time with family.
Yes.
What was her favorite holiday?
Her birthday. It was the week.
Good answer.
It was the week of Amber, because we would start celebrating her birthday. Her birthday is October 7th, and we would start several days before, the week before, and celebrate her birthday every single day until the day of her birthday. And then we would usually have her a family dinner party, with all of us, with the cake and whatever kind of meal that she preferred, or whatever. But we teased her all the time that it was the week of Amber. She would have a lot of fun. And she felt special, too, I'm sure.
How did her coworkers look at her?
I'm not real sure. She had only worked at her job for a month, but she told me that everybody was nice to her, and that she got along good with everybody except for one person. And but she was so happy to be out and be meeting people and be seeing people that she hadn't seen in a while. And she would tell me stories about how she would help this one do something, or, that she would stay a little bit later to help somebody do something. And she was just real thrilled about being there. She was.
She was a giver.
Yes, she was. Very much so.
That became pretty obvious to me when you was talking about helping her friends with a place to live that needed a place to stay.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big deal, because not many people do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But here comes Amber. Yeah, sure. Come on over. No problem. Got you. And then, of course, the animal lover. And then, of course, whatever she could do to help somebody else and make them smile.
Yes.
She would do that.
Yeah.
She loved babies, too. So any of her friends,
yes.
whenever they would have a new baby, she was right there at their house helping them out.
Saw a picture of it.
Yeah, holding the baby so the mom could get to do something.
Maybe take a shower, grab a bite to eat, something.
Yes, yeah. And I always have a baby present in her car for somebody. And I'd say, well, who's that for? And she'd say, oh, my friend so-and-so. She's getting ready to have a baby. And she loved giving gifts to people. And she actually, when I was at her house the other day, she had a book of like 2,000 or 200,000 names for a baby. And so I think that she had that not because she was planning on having a baby, but because she liked to help her friends with the names.
She liked to help them plan.
Yes.
It was probably just as exciting for her as it was for them.
Yes.
Anything she could do to be a part of something that was helping somebody else.
Yeah.
Because this girl understood the fact in life that there are things bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
She volunteered at my office for, I had forgotten until Missy told me, but it was about 3 years that she volunteered. She showed up every morning at 8 a.m. and was there until 5 p.m. she didn't make a penny. She was just there because it was giving her something to do. She was learning how to function in a workplace. And
do you think that she had an interest in going into the medical field? You're a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I think so. Cause she graduated from National College of Business, and she had some, I think didn't she have like some medical terminology?
Transcription. Yeah, maybe that was it. But
well,
yeah.
It really kind of fits when you sit back and think about it, because look what she's done to help so many other people. Mm-hmm. What better field could you possibly get into to help somebody than a field of medicine, whether it's a, an MD or like internal physician, or maybe a psychiatrist, whatever it could be. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of fields of medicine that she could have went into, something that would have interested her. I'm sure that she could have saved lives.
Yes. Yeah. Well, while she was taking care of her grandfather, she and I went and got our BLSs. And, she thought that would be an important thing, that if he had a heart attack or whatever, it was important for her to know. And she also had, in her purse, she had one of those covers for the mouth for when you give CPR. Mm. And so she was ready. She was prepared to help people.
What's a BLS?
Oh, I'm sorry. Basic life support. Yeah.
CPR.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, CPR. I'm sorry.
I know what CPR is.
Yeah.
Yeah. BLS, what's BLS?
And, I'm a nurse, so I had to get mine. And so we both took the same class together.
My dear, you're talking to a simpleton here. Okay.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Funny thing, though, when Amber volunteered at Debbie's office, we teased her because she was so excited about the lunches. And
wait, in the hospital cafeteria or
no.
We would have catered lunches about every day. The drug reps would bring them in to us.
Yes.
So that
Yes. And so she'd come home, and whenever I talked to her, she'd tell me, well, this rep got us food from such and such, or this and that, and I had this and that, and so that was the highlight of her day.
So she gave it a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Yes. Yeah. Well, she was a foodie. We knew that.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's great. June this year.
Yes.
18th.
Yeah.
What are you doing when you get the call?
Well, I didn't get a call. But Debbie is the one that called me.
Well, what happened there?
Well, that morning, my husband and I got up, and Amber called me every single morning about 9:30, every single morning. And I would talk to her probably 6 or 7 times a day. She would call me.
Clockwork.
Yes. And it would be, usually just one little thing she wanted to tell me, and then that would be it. But that morning at 9:30, she didn't call, and I thought, well, she's probably getting ready for church. She's going to church today, and so I thought, or either that, or she's sleeping in a little bit because she worked the night before at the brick house, and about 12:30 or so. Or 12 o'clock or so, I guess, I was thinking, well, she needs to be calling me. I had tried to call her cell and leave her a message, and she hadn't answered or anything, hadn't called me back. And she has cameras at her house. So I asked my husband if he could get on the cameras because he maintained them for her, and he had access to them to see, what time she left that morning to go to church or whatever. And it appeared that she didn't come home the night before, and that was not her normal thing that she would do.
Is that when you first?
That was when I was really getting worried about her. And I had a feeling that morning whenever I woke up and I hadn't talked to her that something wasn't right. And but I never dreamed it would be anything like this. I texted a couple of people, a couple of her friends and her aunt, and also Debbie. Debbie and Brandon were out of town, and I texted everybody, said, "Have you heard from Amber?" And Debbie called me and told me that she had been murdered. And that's how I found out.
I asked Debbie, how did she know? How was it that she found out?
Brandon's brother is a state policeman, and when Missy called and said she couldn't find Amber anywhere, we called him and said, "Can you find out anything?" Because that was the farthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
And can you find anything out? And he called us back like 10, 15 minutes later, and he said, "Amber's been murdered." And as soon as I heard that, did I call you? I don't even remember.
I don't remember.
And we left and made it back here from Huntington in about 45 minutes time or less, and come straight to Missy's, and we just sat there all day waiting to hear from somebody.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would be like? That wait. Somewhere in your mind, hoping, thinking, praying that this is all just a bad dream or a mistake.
It was awful. It was horrible. It was the worst day.
And then your mind goes to that place. You start remembering the holidays. All of the special times you spent together. All of the time that you did things as a family, and those things will never come again. Maybe one of the most cruel parts is the moment you realize it's not a trick. This is real. When did you first have contact with the authorities?
I spoke that night. It was about 1 a.m. That night I spoke with Detective Wireman. I had called the state police post a couple of times to try to get information, and they did tell me that the detective would contact me, but he was on the scene, and so we just actually we sat around and talked and waited for his call, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, because he had been there all day at the crime scene, and that's, when I got the information.
The look in their eyes broke my heart. They knew. But what they didn't know, and what we're still waiting to find out, is exactly who and why. Why would anyone do this? It was then I had to ask the question. Numb? Void of feeling? Oh no. Melissa and Debbie are anything but numb.
Numb? No, I'm not numb at all. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm lonesome. I'm not numb at all. I'm so angry that someone would do this to her. I mean, they thought they were going to get away with this, and they're not going to.
11 times.
11 times.
She was stabbed.
Yes.
11 times.
Yes.
Does that not speak rage to you?
Yes.
Rage only comes about if it's personal. If somebody knows somebody. The last thing that we're going to do on this episode is speculate. And we're going to try not to make assumptions. But there are obvious signs out there that say why or what's going on with this and that. But let's back up a little bit and let's start. Did anybody make a call to 911?
There was a call at 5:30 that morning, and there was a call at 10 that morning. The first call at 5:30 was not deemed to be something that required a response.
Do you know what the content of that first call was?
Yes, I do.
Is that something you can share with us?
It's an ongoing investigation. Kentucky State Police has not released it. However, details of the phone call have been leaked out from the city to various TikTokers and media. And our county judge executive has the 911 call on his personal computer. And we know that the magistrates have heard it. And we went and listened to it also. He allowed us to listen to it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think that it was something that deserved a response, at least a welfare check. There was the phone call was made by the son, and he kept talking about someone that was really effed up. He said that about 5 or 6 times, said we can't do anything with him. We can't keep him in the bed. He keeps falling everywhere. He's cut himself. He's bleeding profusely. And the 911 people said, we can't come pick somebody up from your house just because they're drunk and you don't want them there. And Dr. McKinney gets on the phone and says, hey, this is Mike McKinney. Who is this? Well, there's no life-threatening injuries here. I've got it all under control. I'll call you back if I need you. And he got off the phone. And then the next call was at 10 a.m., and it was Dr. McKinney saying, I need some assistance. I have a dead girl on my couch. And he said it looked like someone had come in and stabbed her. So the city police, who told me that they weren't responsible to respond to the calls out in the county, when I asked why they didn't respond to the 5:30 a.m. call, all of a sudden at 10 a.m., they respond.
Well, that's probably some misinformation that I got, but I thought the Kentucky State Police were the first to respond.
No.
See, again, that's misinformation that I got.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that going around out there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Prestonsburg PD were the first to respond.
Yes. Even though I was told that they had no responsibility to answer phone calls out in the county, and that's why part of why they didn't go to the 5:30 a.m. call. All of a sudden, something changed from 5:30 a.m. till 10 a.m., and there they were on the scene.
When did KSP get to the scene?
I don't know for sure, but it wasn't very long after the city police was there. It wasn't very long afterwards. I do know that they had a deputy coroner up there at the time whenever the Kentucky State Police showed up.
For information for those of us who are not aware, who is handling the investigation at this point? Who's in charge of it?
The Kentucky State Police, and specifically Detective Wireman.
You've been in contact with him. Is there a time frame? Or, I mean, has a suspect even been named yet?
No, the police told us that it is not their process to do that, because if someone in the community decided that they wanted to seek justice on their own, then that would make them liable. So they said they do not name suspects, they do not name persons of interest, they do not name homes. I was very skeptical about that, so I started going back through press releases from the Kentucky State Police of other crimes and murders and things. And that is true. They don't. There was nothing that I read that I could find where they had named names.
Well, as much as it may suck, it makes sense.
Yes.
Because the last thing we need is vigilante justice.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Whoever did this
needs to stand trial in front of a judge and 12 jurors.
Yes.
Yes.
And they need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and whatever punishment may come. And then after that, it's in God's hands.
That's exactly right.
And I would not want to be that person looking God in the face trying to explain why I did what I just did.
Yes.
That's me. Not to mention living the rest of your life with this hanging around your neck. You know, I may be throwing a candle in the dark here, or a ball in the dark, a long shot, whatever. but you know who you are. And if you're out there right now and you're listening to this, the only hope that I can possibly see is that you come forward and you own it. Now, you were man enough to do, or people enough, men, women, whoever, enough to do what you did. Now be adult enough to take it, and be adult enough to say, I did it. I am sitting across the table right now from two women who are heartbroken and shattered, and there is no going back. They'll never get her back. But maybe, just maybe, you can give them a little sense, a little taste of justice by explaining exactly why it was that you felt the need to take a life, why it was that you felt the need to do what you did. And I'm not going to repeat it because I see that you're already in tears. Missy.
Yeah. I stay in tears.
What's the deal with the 911 system? I mean, what has got you? And I ask this with me partially knowing the answer, but I want to hear it from your perspective, Missy, and then Debbie, or Debbie and Missy, whoever wants to go first. That's fine. What's the problem with the 911 system here?
I think that the change came without enough thought and enough input from other people. When I went to the fiscal court meeting following this murder, and I stood up there and I talked about it, Robbie Williams said that they had no one to answer the calls in the county from midnight until 6 a.m. And then Les Stapleton said that they were going to be installing hardware and software to make it better for them to respond. In my opinion, if you're going to take on something like 911, you should have all of that in place before you ever take it on. You don't take on something like that and not be prepared to take care of the people.
It's a pretty serious thing. Why is there nobody to respond between the hours of midnight and 6?
That's a good question. No one has been able to tell us
so
that.
So I asked the stumper, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. However, since all this has happened, $250,000 has been appropriated to the sheriff's office so that they can be available during those hours to answer calls. But Judge Williams says this has nothing to do with 911. I don't see how that is, that it has nothing to do with 911.
Okay, so let me rehash what you're saying, okay?
Yes.
Just so I understand this like I'm 3 years old. $250,000
yes.
was appropriated.
Yes.
To answer 911 calls.
To the sheriff's office.
To the sheriff's office.
Yes.
But it has nothing to do with 911.
Correct.
But it's to answer 911 calls.
Correct. I'm as puzzled as you are.
I'm serious, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to understand what Judge Williams is saying. I want to understand it, but I'm not getting it.
I believe if they were to say that they did this because the lack of coverage for 911, then that would be them admitting that they are at fault in this.
Would that make a difference to you if they did?
Now, no. In the beginning, yes.
How about you, Melissa?
I think it would make a big difference. I mean, just because somebody else is going to get hurt.
That's your big thing, isn't it?
Yes.
And I'm sure Deb's too.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm mad about it now. Yes. You know, I've had enough. The county, to my knowledge, not once made a statement regarding this murder. You know, we're so sorry, or we're going to help do this or that. Not once did they make any kind of a statement. Les Stapleton attempted to make a statement on Facebook about condolences to the family. He had about 2 lines to say about that, and then he went into, but people are lying on me, and people are bad-mouthing the first responders, and I'm tired of all of this. It was all about him, and it was a very poor attempt to give us any type of a condolence.
Mm-hmm. One thing I found out in researching about 911 is that there is a Kentucky Board of 911 Services. And you think with a name like that it actually governs the 911 call centers.
Would make sense.
But they don't. The only thing that they do is they come in and they make sure that you have, or, you know, where you're proposing for your 911 call center to be, that you have the ability to collect the monies that are needed to run the center. And when I asked, well, who governs the 911 call center, the person told me that it is your local government, your city and your county. They both work together to govern the 911 call center.
So they said city and county both.
Yes.
So it's a team effort.
Yes.
With no one overseeing
Yes.
them.
Yes.
There's
So-
no oversight to go
so
in and
then-
say you're doing this wrong, you're doing this right.
Yes, there's nobody to check behind them to make sure that they've got everything implemented that they need in order to run the call center effectively.
So, Debbie, if I'm working for you in your doctor's office and I don't answer to you, then who do I answer to? I mean, who's over this? Who's...
Right. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there has to be a system of checks and balances in place.
Exactly. Yes.
I have people I answer to. Everybody, I think, has somebody that they answer to. So...
It's self-governing is what this is.
Self-governing.
Yes. They're supposed to come up with their own rules and regulations and policies to run the center.
Well, would that be passed by a board of people, perhaps, the procedures and policies
Just-
in place? Or is it
no.
just something that we say, hey, Debbie, today the uniform colors are going to be blue? Or, hey, Melissa, how about this? We're going to wear pink tennis shoes today.
It's supposed to be agreed on.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be documented. And it's supposed to be filed at the courthouse, you know.
And you've not seen any evidence of
No.
such?
No.
Is this all over the country like this?
Yes.
Really?
Or at least in our state. I don't know about all of them, but this is how our state runs it.
So the Commonwealth of Kentucky runs it this way, but we're not sure about...
I'm not sure
let's
about
say Florida,
the other.
or
Exactly.
West Virginia, or Virginia, or Tennessee,
Right.
whoever. In a governmental organization, there's got to be checks and balances.
Right.
I mean, granted, there's probably not from the White House down, but there needs to be. If you go by the Constitution of the United States of America, the president answers to the people.
Yes.
Senators answer to the people, etc. Police officers have supervisors that they answer to.
Right.
Kentucky State Troopers have a sergeant. Sergeant
Right.
has a captain. Captain has a lieutenant, et cetera, et cetera. Goes on. And they work out pretty well. But...
Well, hospitals have joint commission. That
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes, they do.
There's nursing boards. There's medical boards.
Yeah.
There's dental boards.
Melissa didn't wake up one morning and say, well, I'm going to be a nurse. And next thing you know, boom. Oh, here's your
Exactly.
paper. Give us
Right.
$25 for the license.
Yeah.
And you sure didn't wake up one day and say, well, I think I'm going to be a doctor today. And boom, you're a doctor.
And
8 years of school and then another 4 of medical training and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they may let you have the name of doctor. That's
Yes.
how it works.
Yes.
And I mean, even though I'm retired from my profession, I still keep my license up by doing continuing education.
I
I'm
think that's
required to. And that's checks and balances for nurses.
It's called
Yeah.
being something that you want, doing something that you love.
Yeah.
Amber touched everything around her, whether she knew it or not. And her impact, from what I can see, has been something that was very, very beautiful,
Yes.
very positive, very loving, very nurturing, very caring.
Yes.
She was
38.
Who are we to say what the next 10 years would have brought? 20 years, 30. Right up until the time that she was, quote, unquote, and I can almost hear her saying this, an old biddy. Walking around complaining about something because somebody grilled cheese sandwich was half done or something, or who knows. But, you know, what would she have accomplished? Because she was just getting started.
No.
Yes.
She took care of her grandparents.
Yes.
They took care of her.
Mm-hmm.
Family was everything.
Yes.
Right?
All of us.
Yeah.
Did you ever hesitate to call her if you needed her?
No.
Never. She was there every time I would ask her to do anything.
I bet you, Missy.
Well, she was too busy doing things for Debbie.
Here's what I'm getting, okay? And I could be completely wrong on this, and I reserve the right to back out and shut my pie hole. I'm getting you as like a mom figure to her.
I think.
And you're like a sister figure.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it is. And
that's just the feeling I got.
Yeah. And because I was always the one, saying, Amber, you can't do that, or you need to do this, or, make sure you pay that bill on time. And Debbie was more the
fun.
Yeah. Hey, let's go shopping. Or let's go to
Huntington. Let's go to Lexington.
Let's go to Rocco's,
Oh, Rocco's is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Debbie was the fun person, and I was more the listen to me, I'm telling you what's good for you person.
What do you hope to get out of this, Missy?
I just want her killers caught.
I want them to pay their dues.
Because it doesn't matter. I mean, she's gone, and my life's never going to be the same.
How about you, Debbie? What do you want out of this?
We say we want justice, but there is no justice. No. There is no justice in this. Justice is putting them through what she went through. I just wish we had her back. I wish we could just turn it all backwards. And, we were just a quiet, small family. We stayed to ourselves. We didn't bother anybody or do anything. It was dinners at Amber's or dinners here or dinners at Missy's. We've lost everybody. We lost my dad, my mom, Margie, and Merle, and I just thought that we were through with loss for a while. And I just never dreamed we'd lose her.
No. She was supposed to be the one to put me in the old folks' home and inherit all my treasures and everything. She was the one to live on past me. And now she's gone, and I'm having to go through all her things, and it's awful. It's so horrible. I just don't understand how anybody could do that to her, or why.
Those are the big questions. Who and why?
Exactly.
The next thing I'm going to ask you, sweetheart, probably the hardest thing that I'll ask tonight. If she were here right now, and you could say anything to her, what would it be?
That I love her. I think she knew that. I think she did. But if I could say something to her right now, with her being gone, and she could hear me, I would want her to know that I'm so sorry that this happened to her, and that she didn't deserve it.
I want her to know how special she is to everybody, and all the big changes that she's making, and all the people who loved her. She went through a hard childhood and adolescence, fitting in, and she had just blossomed and started her way in the world, and I just would want her to know how much everybody loved her. People showing up for marches, and people donating to the animal shelter in her honor, and people donating to her scholarship fund, and the nice things that everybody's had to say about her.
Yeah. And she certainly knew a lot of people. She used to tell me that she knew a lot, and I didn't believe her until now. But she did. She knew a lot of people, and she touched a lot of people.
You see that ripple effect?
Yes, definitely.
That's one thing. Now, who has the right to take that from the rest of those?
No.
From the rest of the world. This is not counting all the people that she would have met. Maybe at some point one day had children.
Yes.
Husband, boyfriend, whatever. All the people she would have cared about. All the people that would have cared about her. All the people that would have talked to her and said, oh, I didn't think of it like that. Change the paradigm. It's called a paradigm shift. It happens.
Yes.
Rare, but it happens. When we're not so self-absorbed in ourselves.
Yeah.
I've had that happen a time or two. When I'm like, what about that? I got a feeling she was very strong-willed.
She was.
And she could have brought on those paradigm shifts.
Mm-hmm.
She could have made people see something in themselves that they didn't see before her.
That's true.
And somebody took that away.
Yeah.
You talked about justice. And you're right, Doc. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about balance. But there is no balance for this. The best we can do is hope that whoever it was pays the price that a judge and a jury see fit. And then after that, like I said, they're in the hands of God.
Yes.
And that is eternal. God can forgive us of any sin, but the first thing we have to do, according to Jesus Christ, is confess it with our mouth. In other words, own it. Admit it.
Yes.
Are you listening to me? Admit it. That's your only way out. I already see things changing because of her.
Yes.
She's here even though she's not here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts, Missy?
Whoever did this was wrong. And they not only took her life, they took our lives and twisted them. And things will never be the same for us.
They didn't just kill one person that night.
No. No. No.
Debbie?
I can't hardly bear the thoughts of her birthday coming up. And Thanksgiving and Christmas. She was such a big part of all of that. She planned the meals and gave us all our duties, what we were supposed to do, and made all the plans for us. And it just won't be the same. And then I think about these people who did this to her. And I hope that they don't get to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas with their family because they don't deserve it.
It's kind of hard for me to argue that point.
Mm-hmm. Amber was such a kind, good-hearted person. She always tried to do the right things. She was very involved with her church. I know, without a doubt, she is in heaven. I don't have any question about that at all. But I mourn the things that we didn't get to do that we had planned to do.
And the time to spend that you didn't get to spend.
Yes. And I read a column one time, a Dear Abby column, and it talked about having siblings. And, you know, Amber wasn't my sibling. We were cousins, but she lived 2 doors down from me for the last almost 20 years. And we did a whole lot together. And it talked about, you know, nobody else knows what it's like to grow up in your house except the people there with you. And nobody knows what the holidays were like. And you know, she and I, we talked about my mom and dad and her grandmother and grandfather and people gone on. And so not only did I lose her, but I lost that too.
Don't give up on the Thanksgivings and the Christmases this year or next. I just got that feeling she would not want that.
No.
She'd probably get madder than a wet hen.
She would.
And probably start throwing things. And
yeah.
You really don't want to tick her off. I just got that feeling.
Margie died on Christmas Eve, and
yeah.
I remember we were all just kind of hurt, and Amber said, well, we have to eat. And and she said, and we've got all this food. But, I mean, she was right, and we did.
You keep going. That's what she would want.
Uh-huh.
You know, at the time I'm recording this, Junior, which is this big, beautiful, fluffy black cat, is allowing me to pet him. As a matter of fact, he's kind of like he's expecting it. I don't know. I pay attention to the little things, the little signs. And she was an animal lover.
Yes.
So you see where I'm going with that?
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Too much empty space for these thoughts, and it's a long way down. All alone, face to face with the darkness that I know so well. Just let me go. When the lights are gone, just let me go. When night falls, city streets overwhelmed with blood, glows in red and gold. Neon lights and fireflies render the beauty of the darkness obsolete. Just let me go. My heart is home when the lights are gone. Just let me go. My heart is home when the lights are gone. Let me just let me just let me go. My heart is home when the lights are gone. Just let me go. My heart is home when the lights are gone. Hold me close so I'm not alone when the lights are gone.
How do we pick up the pieces of shattered lives? When we realize, deep within our own hearts, that what once was can never be again. I guess that's when our memories become a lot more precious as time marches on at its own pace. You know, after this, I suppose that I would amend my original statement. Maybe questions aren't such a funny thing after all. There's something that's needed, so we can find the answers and the peace that we so desperately want, that was robbed away from us, with no explanation. I'm Chris Sloan for the Mountain Mysteries. Stay mysterious.
If you enjoy the Mountain Mysteries, please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. That helps us so much. You can also help support the Mountain Mysteries by visiting our sponsors, whose links are below, or by donating at Patreon or the PayPal link shown in the notes. Patreon subscribers will receive early commercial-free episodes and more.